Have you ever wondered how the way we support our children could impact our lives as we grow older? In this video, we dive deep into the story of Mr. Lu, a retired civil servant who, despite having a comfortable pension and the means to support his children, has chosen a different path. His unique approach to financial support and the resulting emotional journey might surprise you. Stick with us until the end to discover the lessons he learned and why understanding this story could change the way you think about managing your own retirement and family support. Before we begin, I'll give it a thumbs up. If you like the video, you can help me continue to spread the old age lesson. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't like it, comment 0 to let me know so I can make a better video for you. Now let's get started. Today, I want to delve into a topic that resonates deeply with many of us who are parents: the immense love and dedication we have for our children. This love is a universal truth that transcends time and circumstance. As parents, we constantly find ourselves thinking about our children, their well-being, and their future. This concern is especially evident in today's world, where life pressures and challenges seem more pronounced than ever before. It is not uncommon for elderly parents to find themselves in a position where they feel compelled to support their children financially. They might use their hard-earned savings or retirement funds to help alleviate the burdens their children face, whether due to career struggles, financial difficulties, or other pressures. For many, this act of generosity and support is a natural extension of their parental love. They believe that if they can provide some relief and improve their children's quality of life, their efforts are well worth it. Parental love is profound and unconditional. It often drives us to make sacrifices for the happiness and well-being of our children. The notion that our children's joy and comfort justify our efforts is a sentiment shared by many. However, there are exceptions to this pattern that can be both surprising and thought-provoking. Take, for example, Mr. Lu from our neighborhood. Unlike the typical scenario, Mr. Lu and his wife have a different approach. Both were once employed as civil servants, enjoying stable and well-paying jobs. Over the years, they managed to accumulate significant savings, and now, in their retirement, their combined pensions amount to over 10,000 yuan per month. Despite this comfortable financial situation, Mr. Lu and his wife have chosen not to provide any financial support to their children. This decision has led to considerable curiosity and confusion among those around them. In contrast to the many parents who actively contribute financially to their children's needs, Mr. Lu's stance is quite different. They have made a deliberate choice to refrain from offering any financial assistance, and this has sparked a range of questions. What motivates them to adopt such an approach? What are their reasons for withholding support, even when they have the means to offer it? To better understand their perspective, let's explore Mr. Lu's story in detail. By delving into their reasoning, we can gain insight into the underlying motivations and values that guide their decisions. What drives their unconventional choice, and how do they justify their approach in a context where financial support is often seen as a natural aspect of parental responsibility? Mr. Lu shares his reflections, saying, "At 72 years old this year, I've had the privilege of being retired for 12 fulfilling years. My wife, who is 5 years my junior, has also enjoyed over a decade of retirement. We both spent our working years in state-owned enterprises, and our combined pensions now exceed 10,000 yuan each month. This financial stability affords us a lifestyle that many only dream of. Each day we relish the freedom to choose whatever food we desire, travel to places we've always wanted to visit, and live without the usual constraints of budgeting. After dedicating half of our lives to hard work and dedication, retirement has become our time to truly embrace and savor the pleasures of life. It's a period meant for us to enjoy the fruits of our labor without reservation. Yet, despite our comfortable financial situation, we have made a deliberate choice not to spend a single yuan on our children. Some might wonder why, given our ample pension, we don't contribute financially to support our children, especially when young people face so many challenges today. It might seem like a natural extension of our role as parents to provide them with some form of financial assistance. However, my wife and I have resolved to keep our funds to ourselves, even if it means watching them slowly lose value over time. This decision is not born from a place of unkindness or disregard. Rather, it stems from a profound sense of disappointment and disillusionment with our two sons. Their actions and choices have left us feeling cold and disconnected, leading us to believe that our resources are better spent on enjoying our own lives. It's a painful but necessary decision, rooted in a complex mix of emotions and past experiences that have shaped our current stance. If you're still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. My wife and I have faced numerous hardships throughout our lives and are intimately familiar with the harsh realities of poverty. Having experienced such struggles firsthand, we made a deliberate choice to be deeply caring and nurturing toward our two sons once our circumstances began to improve following our involvement in public service. We dedicated ourselves to ensuring their well-being, providing them with all the essentials they needed, but we were also firm in our stance against spending money on non-essential items. This approach, influenced by my educational philosophy of being both tactful and moderate, has been integral to our parenting strategy. It has, no doubt, played a significant role in shaping our sons into individuals who have consistently excelled since their early years. Their academic achievements have been commendable. Both of them were admitted to prestigious universities, completed their studies with distinction, and subsequently secured positions in major metropolitan areas. They have successfully navigated their professional paths, built families of their own, and established stable, fulfilling lives. Our efforts in guiding and supporting them have garnered much admiration from those around us, who often commend us for the positive upbringing we provided. As working parents, it has been a significant achievement for both of us to see our sons thrive as white-collar professionals in large cities and make meaningful strides in their careers. Despite their impressive accomplishments, my wife and I have always been actively involved in supporting their personal and professional growth. For instance, after our eldest son graduated from university, we leveraged our connections to secure him a position at a reputable state-owned company. Additionally, we purchased homes for both of our sons, using up all the savings we had diligently accumulated over our lifetime. As the years went by, both of our sons had children of their own. This new responsibility led my wife and me to make significant sacrifices. To help with the grandchildren, my wife retired early at the age of 50 to care for our eldest grandson, and I retired at 60 to look after our youngest granddaughter. Our commitment to our grandchildren and sons was so consuming that we could only find some rest once the children were old enough to start school. Generally, the presence of elderly parents is a cornerstone of family life, and it is expected that children will visit frequently, especially during festivals and special occasions. However, our experience with our sons has been strikingly different. They rarely come home for these important times and seldom even make an effort to keep in touch. Our eldest son, who lives just 300 kilometers away, a mere 4-hour drive, only manages to visit us once a year, usually during the Chinese New Year. Each visit feels more like a brief stopover than a genuine reunion. He arrives without any gifts or offerings, and his departure is marked by taking away any New Year's treats we had prepared for ourselves. I recall one particular year when this behavior was especially disheartening. While other families were being showered with gifts and bags of goodies from their children, our eldest son showed an astonishing lack of generosity. He arrived in his SUV but brought nothing more than 2 pieces of clothing for my wife and me. There were no festive gifts, no red envelopes, traditions that we had come to cherish. The only thoughtfulness came from our grandchildren, who remembered to give us their red envelopes. As soon as the New Year festivities were over, he would hastily gather whatever remaining New Year supplies we had stored up, taking as much as he could find from the small pantry. His actions that year left me feeling deeply hurt and disillusioned. I expressed my feelings to him, but his response was callous. "You're both so old now, you can't eat much, and it's a waste to leave these things at home." If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. This attitude was not just a minor disappointment. It was a reflection of a deeper disregard that stung more than I care to admit. The sense of neglect and the lack of consideration for our traditions and feelings have etched a lasting sadness in our hearts. Our younger son exhibited an even more demanding attitude than his older brother. When we purchased a house for him, he later asked us for money to buy a car. His request was made with a blunt and authoritative tone, almost as if he were issuing a command. He said, "Dad, I want to buy a car. Quickly transfer 130,000 yuan to me. Do it now." This direct and imperious demand made me deeply uncomfortable. It felt as if he was trying to reverse our roles, with him taking on the position of the authority figure and me being relegated to the role of the subordinate. Despite our ability to provide the 130,000 yuan he requested, I was unsettled by his manner and refused to comply. At that point, he already owned a car, and purchasing another one seemed to me a frivolous expense. When his request was denied, he shifted his approach and began asking for money under different pretenses. He claimed he needed funds to renovate his house or to start a new business, making repeated requests for tens of thousands of yuan each time. Although I recognized his true intentions and only provided him with a modest amount of money on each occasion, he began to display a noticeable shift in his attitude toward us. Our refusal to fulfill his financial demands seemed to have fostered a sense of resentment and entitlement in him. As a result, his visits became increasingly strained. He would come over with a cold and indifferent demeanor, eating quickly and departing immediately, regardless of our attempts to make him feel welcome and to encourage him to stay longer. His visits became brief and impersonal, and he often cited discomfort at home as his reason for leaving swiftly. This behavior change was disheartening, and it felt as though our refusal to give him money had led him to distance himself emotionally, treating us with a growing sense of disdain. Over time, the actions of our 2 sons have left us feeling increasingly disheartened. 4 years ago, my wife was hospitalized due to a serious case of osteoarthritis. Although we managed to cover the medical expenses for her surgery and treatment ourselves, one thing we deeply hoped for was a visit from our sons. We had hoped their presence would provide some emotional comfort and support during this challenging time. However, to our profound disappointment, both sons seemed to avoid coming to see us, as though visiting their mother would be an inconvenience or an expense they were unwilling to bear. It felt as if their presence was too costly for them, not in financial terms, but in emotional effort. Instead of coming to support their mother, they only made brief phone calls, lacking any real concern or empathy for the situation. What was initially meant to be a routine procedure turned into a source of significant emotional distress for my wife. While other patients in the hospital were surrounded by their families, offering them comfort and companionship, my wife and I were left to face the situation alone, relying only on each other. This stark contrast to the experiences of others in the hospital made us feel quite isolated and pitiable, intensifying the emotional pain my wife endured. The absence of our sons during this difficult time has left a lasting impact, further straining our relationship and deepening our sense of disappointment. Later, while my wife was still recovering from her health issues, I faced a painful setback of my own. I accidentally fell and fractured my foot. At that time, my wife was dealing with severe back problems and was unable to provide the care I needed. In our moment of vulnerability, I reached out to our 2 sons, hoping they would come to our aid and offer their support. However, their responses were disappointing and heart-wrenching. One son claimed he was overwhelmed with work commitments, while the other said he was unwell. Despite my attempts to convey the urgency and seriousness of my condition, both sons insisted they were unable to help. Feeling utterly helpless, I had no choice but to hire a caregiver at considerable expense. During my recovery, I learned from our grandchildren that while my wife and I struggled, my eldest son had taken his family on a seaside vacation, and the younger son had gone hiking. This revelation was a blow to my already bruised spirit. Knowing that they were enjoying leisure time while we were left to manage on our own filled me with a deep sense of betrayal and sadness. The emotional pain of their disregard was even more acute than the physical pain I was enduring. Such experiences led us to a painful realization. Why should we continue to give our hard-earned savings to our sons when they show such indifference? Consequently, my wife and I have slowly distanced ourselves from relying on them, no longer expecting them to be our support in retirement. We are still capable of taking care of ourselves, but if they treat us so callously now, the situation could be even worse if we are unable to care for ourselves in the future. Therefore, we have decided to keep our savings secure, reserving our retirement funds solely for our own needs. In an emergency, we will ensure we have enough to support ourselves without depending on our sons. Should the need arise, we plan to move to a nursing home where, although it may lack the warmth of family, we believe that the comfort and quality of care purchased with our funds will be far better than relying on our sons, who have proven to be unreliable. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Our younger son exhibited an even more demanding attitude than his older brother. When we purchased a house for him, he later asked us for money to buy a car. His request was made with a blunt and authoritative tone, almost as if he were issuing a command. He said, "Dad, I want to buy a car. Quickly transfer 130,000 yuan to me. Do it now." This direct and imperious demand made me deeply uncomfortable. It felt as if he was trying to reverse our roles, with him taking on the position of the authority figure and me being relegated to the role of the subordinate. Despite our ability to provide the 130,000 yuan he requested, I was unsettled by his manner and refused to comply. At that point, he already owned a car, and purchasing another one seemed to me a frivolous expense. When his request was denied, he shifted his approach and began asking for money under different pretenses. He claimed he needed funds to renovate his house or to start a new business, making repeated requests for tens of thousands of yuan each time. Although I recognized his true intentions and only provided him with a modest amount of money on each occasion, he began to display a noticeable shift in his attitude toward us. Our refusal to fulfill his financial demands seemed to have fostered a sense of resentment and entitlement in him. As a result, his visits became increasingly strained. He would come over with a cold and indifferent demeanor, eating quickly and departing immediately, regardless of our attempts to make him feel welcome and to encourage him to stay longer. His visits became brief and impersonal, and he often cited discomfort at home as his reason for leaving swiftly. This behavior change was disheartening, and it felt as though our refusal to give him money had led him to distance himself emotionally, treating us with a growing sense of disdain. As we wrap up today's video, we invite you to reflect on Mr. Lu's story and its insights. How has his unique approach to managing retirement finances and family support impacted your view on these matters? What specific lessons have you learned, and how do you plan to implement them in your own life? We would love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Please share one key takeaway from this video in the comments below and let us know how you intend to put it into practice. Your feedback is invaluable and helps us create content that truly resonates with our viewers. If you found this video helpful and engaging, don't forget to like and share it with friends and family who might benefit from it. Also, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss out on our latest content. Your support means the world to us and keeps us motivated to continue bringing you valuable insights and stories. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing your comments and having you join us again soon.